Did you know that the company behind Mario and Pokémon didn't actually start making video games? In fact, its roots trace all the way back to playing cards in 1889. For over a century, this story is one of incredible reinvention, a tale of missed bets, revolutionary heroes, and conquering entire entertainment industries. The story of Nintendo doesn't begin with video game consoles. It actually starts right here in Kyoto, focused on something far simpler: cards. Back in the late 19th century, a company known as Nintendo Koppai established itself, specializing solely in crafting beautiful, traditional Japanese playing cards. These weren't just any decks, they were intricate works of artisan craftsmanship, steeped in cultural tradition. Their early success was built entirely on this humble niche, mastering the art and business of the perfect card game accessory. This foundational period taught them invaluable lessons about consumer demand, quality control, and reliable market distribution, skills that would prove monumentally important decades later. While the modern world associated Nintendo with Mario and Zelda, their earliest genius lay in print and parlor play. These early experiences cemented a core philosophy: innovation must always be paired with genuine mastery of a craft, no matter how simple it appears. It was this methodical dedication to excellence, sparked by a stack of colorful cardboard, that laid the true foundation for the global entertainment empire we know today. But the world of entertainment was changing fast, and simple wooden cards weren't enough to keep pace with a rising technological wave. Nintendo started looking outward, sniffing around various fields, from pachinko machines to sophisticated arcade games, all in a desperate attempt to find their next big thing. This exploration wasn't always smooth sailing. Early inventions sometimes failed, requiring swift and expensive pivots for the company. However, these risky experiments taught them an invaluable lesson: that moving from physical entertainment to electronic interaction required entirely new skills. By embracing color graphics and specialized components, they started dreaming bigger than mere amusement. They were envisioning portable, personal gaming experiences. This bold shift marked Nintendo's commitment to a future far removed from their original niche. Facing technological leaps, the Japanese founders showed remarkable resilience, laying the groundwork for entire new industries with just their tenacity and surprising creativity. But before they were masters of gaming consoles, Nintendo was an absolute chameleon. Their history isn't just about Joy-Cons and Switches. It's about relentless adaptation just to stay afloat in a brutal market. For decades there, you wouldn't even think they made games at all. They moved into far riskier territory, dabbling almost anything that looked profitable. At one point, rumor has it that the company was selling actual biscuits, a literal biscuit run. While this sounds wild today, these early, eclectic pivots perfectly illustrate a core truth about Nintendo. Their desire to survive and thrive was always paramount. They weren't content with just one product line. They were constantly experimenting to keep the lights on and cash flowing. These attempts in board games, toys, and snack commodities show that, from their earliest days, novelty and pivoting would become trademarks of this legendary household name. Before the Super Mario Bros., before the Wii, Nintendo was something entirely different. At its core, it started as a manual manufacturing company specializing in playing cards and games. But history, as we know, is rarely linear. By the 1960s, the global entertainment landscape was rapidly shifting toward electricity, and our story's central figure is ready to adapt. They began actively experimenting with electronic leisure, moving away from purely board game concepts and dipping their toes into circuit boards. This wasn't a lightning strike of genius. It was steady corporate curiosity funded by necessity. Although these early efforts were often experimental prototypes, some even involving novelty items like electronic self-playing Kotoba, they established a critical foothold: the knowledge that Japanese consumers craved interactive, playable gadgetry. This foundational work laid the groundwork for them to eventually dominate the emerging arcade market, and establish consumer trust in complex, fun technology. If you're studying the history of video games, you can't ignore the gut-wrenching failure of 1983, a market collapse known simply as the video game crash. It was a disaster born from oversupply and rampant low quality from major players like Atari. The consumer interest evaporated overnight, leaving countless companies with worthless inventory stacks. For Nintendo, this period posed an existential threat. It was a challenge that could have broken even their ambitious corporate structure. But they didn't crumble under the pressure. Instead, observing the wreckage of the early console market, the brilliant minds at Nintendo realized that sheer graphical power wasn't enough. They needed something reliable, fun, and, most importantly, trustworthy. This painful downturn provided them with a unique opportunity to reinvent themselves entirely, paving the way for their breakout move years later. But by the early 1980s, the home video game market had hit a crisis point, famously suffering from an oversupply of low-quality titles. Nintendo wasn't immune to this downturn, but they possessed something far more valuable than just arcade skill, quality control, and unparalleled marketing wit. What followed was less of a product launch and more of a complete industry reintroduction, headlined by the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES in North America. Faced with skepticism, often unfairly associating video games with neighborhood chaos, Nintendo shrewdly rebranded the console almost like an entertainment peripheral, hiding its true nature as a gaming powerhouse within an innocuous toy shell. The launch wasn't just about selling hardware. It was about convincing parents and their kids that this sophisticated box could bring structured fun into the living room. Underpinning this mechanical revolution were creative geniuses like Shigeru Miyamoto, who delivered masterpieces that proved games could be artistic experiences themselves. With titles like Super Mario Bros. Providing unforgettable gameplay depth, Nintendo didn't just revive the console industry. They redefined what home gaming meant for generations to come. If Nintendo's pixelated adventures felt like cozy board games before, the early 90s saw them push the envelope dramatically with the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. While incredible titles remained masters of the 2D plane, the industry was beginning to demand more depth, and Nintendo found itself squarely in its path. The evolution continued when they launched the Nintendo 64 platform, a monumental leap requiring a shift into true polygonal three-dimensional space. This wasn't just an upgrade, it fundamentally altered how games were designed and experienced. Suddenly, worlds weren't drawn on a flat screen anymore. Players could explore environments rendered in glorious, complex wireframes of polygons. To handle this new level of complexity, Nintendo also changed what we held in our hands with the revolutionary N64 controller, which introduced analog sticks for genuine movement control. It was an immediate hurdle for many, a shift from button pressing to nuanced stick positioning, but one that unlocked massive creative potential. Through these transitions, from sprite-based perfection to full 3D immersion, Nintendo continually proved itself not just as a company, but as the visionary driving video games into deeper, richer, and infinitely more complex worlds. The early 2000s presented a challenge, pushing Nintendo to think beyond the confines of a single living room console. While rivals focused solely on graphical leaps, Nintendo's genius lay in recognizing that fun needed to adapt to where you were playing it. This philosophy culminated years later with the Wii U and ultimately led to one of gaming's most brilliant pivots, the introduction of true hybrid play. The resulting Switch didn't just bring portability, it redefined what a console could be, masterfully merging the home entertainment center feel with a handheld device in one elegant package. It allowed the playful, creative core Nintendo never abandoned, the joy of local multiplayer and accessible fun, to thrive whether you were on a couch or riding a train. With detachable Joy-Cons and adjustable stands, Nintendo didn't just release a product. They released an entire spectrum of play experiences, perfectly balancing physical capability with unmatched imaginative freedom. Nintendo proves that true success isn't about keeping up with the latest trends, it's about defining your own magic. From playing cards to global mega hits, their history tells us something crucial. Sometimes the greatest leaps are made when you remember where you started and refuse to be afraid of failure.